everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to say, major spoiler alert, we are going to be going over everything that happened in Season 1 of the Twisted Metal series. So if you haven't seen that series yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Peacock, binge that entire season, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Everybody, joining with me to break down everything from Season 1 of the Twisted Metal series, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Hello.
Hello!
How are we doing?
I am in such a, just goofy mood from this series. I was just starting to giggle even when I was talking about it. I was like, the entire first season of Twisted Metal. Because it's just like that. I mean, it from the trailers when we were kind of talking about this, going, I wonder. We both thought it was a movie at first. I remember that, but
yeah,
from the trailers, I was like, I really hope they're not just taking little tiny funny parts and then I'm gonna get a horrible impression of the series. But that's what the whole series is like. So if you've seen the trailer and you're watching this and you haven't finished the series, number one, why are you watching this? Number two, it's all like the trailer. It really is that level of goofy and I mean goofy in the best way possible. Like that, I almost equated it to like a Zombieland, where it's like you're in an apocalypse, but the main characters are you still have goofy moments, you still have funny moments, you still have elements of humor, but you're in this post-apocalyptic event, basically. And I am all for stuff even Shaun of the Dead. I am all for those kind of movies and series. And I think for me, this series kind of just hit perfect. It really did hit on all the levels I wanted it to. Anthony Mackie was great as kind of having that goofy attitude throughout the entire season. I'm saying series, but I'm hoping that we're going to get another season. So I'm going to start saying season. Throughout all of Season 1, Anthony Mackie, he's in a lot of horrible situations, but he's still got that level, that element of humor and goofiness, and that always hits for me. As long as there's decent writing, that level with the leading person will always hit for me, type of thing. And so I mean, I don't want to hype. I did my best not to hype it up to you, because I finished it long before you did. But I did my best not to hype it up, and I'm trying to do the same thing when I told my cousins to check it out if they're interested in it and stuff like that. But man, I just really I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to, and I'm very happy about it. But Rico, what were some of your initial impressions of Season 1?
Yeah, this was definitely, I would say, one of those pleasant surprises. I definitely went into the show with pretty low expectations, because I remember seeing some clips before the show even came out. I think it was the Game Awards or something like that. I remember thinking not really sure where they're trying to go with this series. Of course, I think it was because there was the first scene in that casino between John Doe and Sweet Tooth, and it's very goofy with the Cisco thong song stuff, and the way Will Arnett's portraying the character. I'm like, okay, they're doing the comedy take this. I can see what they're going with this. But of course, because this is it was showing a cable TV, they were gonna show the real hardcore stuff that the show had to offer. So when it kind of got into that level of it, I was like, okay, I can definitely see the appeal of the series. And as it progressed, it got much better. That's the story went along too. So I was really happy with that. The show reminds me a lot of Mad Max meets Last Man on Earth, because Last Man on Earth is another post-apocalyptic kind of comedy series that dealt with some pretty goofy characters, and there's a lot of goofy characters in this series as well as Ash and versus the Evil Dead, which is another kind of campy, gory series with really funny characters as well. And I think that's exactly what the balance between those three projects, and then this one as well with the campy goriness of the show, along with the comedy, but also there's like this moving, dramatic kind of storyline going on as well between some of the characters, and then of course you get all the action with the cars because at the end of the day, Twisted Metal was basically death matches with cars, right?
Yep.
So I love how they were able to incorporate the elements of the game into the story and also build this original story around it. So yeah, I was yeah, pleasantly surprised is definitely how I was describe how the show went for me.
Yeah, I mean, going off with exactly what you were saying, like I think the writing did a really good job of juggling a lot of different personalities. Now, they were very goofy personalities and
Oh yeah.
obviously exaggerated and crazy and all this stuff, but they did a really good job. Like just like when you and I were talking, like while you were watching it and you were going, "Oh, I'm on episode 6," and stuff like that, and I would be like mentioning stuff that I know had already happened and stuff. I know I said it to you at least a couple times that I really like the fact that we did have different groups that we were following at different times and we got to see them and they weren't just like, you know, oh, they're only interacting with the main character and they're not very interesting otherwise. We actually had separate backstories for a lot of the different characters and a lot of
Mhm.
we learned a lot about every single group, or at least at the very least the leader of each group and stuff like that. So we really did get a good amount of writing. And like I said, they're all very goofy, they're all very outlandish, but that's what the video game is, and this is what we're coming from. We're doing a I don't even know if it's an adaptation from a video game, but that's the jumping off point. So that's the
Right.
source material that they had to use
It's like a
anyway.
prologue,
Right.
really. Yeah.
Right. But so I really do have to applaud like the writing to be able to juggle kind of this many, you know, storylines and characters and groups and still kind of doing a good job at, you know, making it feel like they're all existing at the same time, not just like, oh, that group's on pause until, you know, we're done talking about the main character and why the main character's interacting with them. We have all of these groups and it really shows like that they're all doing things, you know, whether they're on camera or not. And it's pretty cool to you know, get that kind of writing and to get that kind of stuff in something that is just like this goofy video game adaptation show type of thing. You don't expect
Yeah.
like it to actually be that kind of thought out and that kind of planned and stuff. So
Yeah. Another win for video game adaptations, that's for sure. Yeah.
yeah. But do you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick us off with big takeaways?
Okay. I want to talk at least, or I want to talk first about the chemistry between the two leads, which is Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatrice, both known for being in other major projects. Anthony, of course, is now the new Captain America in the MCU, and Stephanie is known mainly for being Rosa in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But she's also in Encanto as well. She's been in a lot of major projects in her own right, and she's her star power is definitely growing along. So you kind of see them take the two lead spots and kind of like this lower budget, kind of campy, goofy story. One fits in their wheelhouses because again, they fit these roles perfectly, and two, they have a really good character dynamic, and it's really cool to see these two characters' relationship grow throughout the series. Um, because really their characters are really the polar opposites essentially. Because John Doe is this guy who's grown up a loner, doesn't really know much about his past, and he's kind of at first he's kind of trying to find himself like who he was, and not realizing who like he's going to be. And at the same time, Rosa is someone who's always had like family with her, and so she's got to adjust to being this person who's on her own now. And so we got someone who's learning to be like with somebody that he can consider family versus someone who's trying to learn to be on their own. So it creates this really cool dynamic, and I really like the relationship between those two characters. And what they set up for the season going forward with those two characters is really intriguing as well. So I really can't wait to see how those storylines progress. And also, being a pro wrestling fan, I was really excited to see Samoa Joe being the physical portrayal of Sweet Tooth, who we haven't really mentioned too much about yet in this recap yet, but he is absolutely one of the standout characters in the show. Being that he is essentially like the face of the Twisted Metal franchise, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, the way he's incorporated into the show is awesome. I think I messaged you once. I was like, I really wish we could have heard like his voice portrayals of the lines, like because you could obviously see Like they don't always match up in the editing. You're watching the dialogue, you're watching the guy's mouth move. It's almost like those like old Japanese Godzilla movies. But like watching him kind of do the physical moves, and if you know anything about him in the ring, he's known for having like quite a personality. So he's got a little bit of a comedic side, but he's also tough and violent as well. So to kind of see him do that as Sweet Tooth was really cool. And then of course Will Arnett was just a really great voice on top of that. But yeah, I love the whole thing between him and Stu, and just how that whole storyline progresses, because Stu is just a lovable teddy bear, and it's basically like what happens when you take like the most psychotic, what could be the best evil teddy bear guy, versus like the nicest successful teddy bear guy, and that was a really fun storyline to watch the whole season. So those are two of my favorite things that happened through season 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. There's so much stuff to actually like from this. Like you can pick out, and they dropped all the episodes on us, and we didn't know, that we were gonna end up both liking it as much as we did, type of thing. So we didn't do an episode by episode recap for this. So that's why we're doing kind of a full season. But I mean, we could have very easily, because the episodes, number one, the episodes are very quick. So those recap videos would have been very quick. But also they flow really well from one to another. So you want to binge them really fast. So I understand why they released, if not releasing the full thing, they should have really released them in chunks, type of thing. Like I would not have been satisfied as much if it had been a 1-by-1 type of thing. I think which
makes me bring up one thing. I'm very confused by the editing for commercials on a streaming program, because I was getting into some scenes, and then I'll just cut the black and then cut to a new moment in the scene. I'm like, come on, man, give me some more of that. Like, make it flow a little bit. Like, that's probably my one little technical gripe for the series. But now I was like, yeah, that was really interesting. A really interesting choice on there.
yeah. I agreed with you. As soon as you said that to me, I was like, yeah, you're right. That
I was like, why did they do that?
That was weird. But I mean, this was on Peacock, so I mean, they definitely planned ahead of time. It wasn't like a show that was on like Max or something like that, and then they cut it afterwards to be put on something where they could run commercials in between it, type of thing. So they easily probably planned ahead for these moments, type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I totally love your takeaway. I love the chemistry between Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatrice. She basically is kind of almost playing a Rosa-like character in this too. What's so funny is seeing her like in real life in interviews, and her voice sounds nothing like either Quiet or Rosa Diaz.
No, that shows how good her Rosa performance really is. Yeah,
she is has such an upbeat, like super bubbly voice type of thing in interviews, and I'm like, oh my god, like she is so good at doing the Rosa voice.
Yeah, she's incredible. I'm a big fan of her.
And Anthony Mackie, like having him in the MCU, he has those things where he can be kind of like a wise ass every once in a while, and kind of have like jokes when it's between him and Bucky. You can kind of see him doing stuff like that. But this was on a different level. Like this was like, he was more goofy than not, type of thing. And I think I really enjoyed that from Anthony Mackie. Like I really liked it. I thought I would like to start seeing him more in more comedies like this type of thing.
Absolutely. If you've ever seen like clips of Anthony Mackie in like interviews and stuff like that, the dude is super charismatic. And so like you kind of get to see that shine through in a role like this. And we were laughing. We were having this funny thing when we were talking to each other. I was like, he's fully embracing like the dad bod while not having to be on the MCU diet, man. He's like, you know what, dude, don't make me do it on this show, man. I'm just gonna be there. And it's fun. They had that funny scene where he's like washing the clothes, whatever, and Quiet just kind of like whatever. And he's like, how about that back, huh? It was like so funny. But yeah, it's just like he was just embracing it, dude, and have a lot of fun in the show. You could tell. And I really hope that they continue on with at least 1 or 2 more seasons of this.
Oh, absolutely. And then, so like to go off of your takeaways, absolutely agree. Love the dynamic between, the different sets of characters had different, really cool pairings. And that was a cool thing to see also, seeing other characters paired together, like Stu and Sweet Tooth. Not only, John Doe and Quiet, but we had, Stu and Sweet Tooth. And I really want to see the progression that, they have in a later season and stuff like that. That was really cool. My biggest takeaway I had to go for was the soundtrack.
What? All night long. Let me see that thong.
And, it started off, I was like, the earliest clips we saw where it was Cisco, the thong song. And I was like, okay, that's funny. And if it only happens once, okay, it's funny. But, they started having more and more music, like at like the intros, and he's listening to music while he's driving and stuff like that. Obviously, he's going to listen to music while he's driving. But what's cool, what they actually did is they gave us an in-universe reason for the soundtrack that they basically picked.
Yeah.
And it's that the apocalyptic event happened in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
So we get music from, the late 90s and the early 2000s. And that's the playlist. And it's like, they went on and just picked the hits. Like, they played all the hits. And so you're sitting there going, holy shit. Like, this is amazing.
Mbop.
Yeah. They had Mbop. They had Steal My Sunshine. They had the thong song.
So
what else did they have? They had DMX.
They had Cake Song, The Distant, which is a good one. Yeah, that great song used in the finale.
Yeah. It worked perfect. And to have like a perfect in-universe explanation for it, and you don't find that out until like the middle of the season. And it was just great. It was like, this is perfect. It gives us a perfect reason. It's not like, oh, we just picked these out of the hat type of thing because we thought people would latch onto them. We have an in-universe reason. And so I just think it worked perfect, and it hit, and every song hit the way I think it was supposed to. It was intended to. I was just super happy with it. And even our friend Pete said the same thing. He was like, that soundtrack slaps though.
Yeah. It was really good.
Yeah, it was a really good soundtrack. But yeah, I mean, I have like, just like you said in kind of the beginning of this, like it was a very pleasant surprise. Like I don't think either one of us were expecting, too much from it. And then to have it be kind of like a show that, both of us are hoping for more seasons of, I think says something. Basically, we're not trying to hype it up too far, but at the same time, for what it is, I'm definitely I'm definitely happy if we get more type of thing.
Yeah.
But you want to get to some predictions?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick us off with predictions. And I have to say this immediately because at least I've only really seen this one other time. And I'll bring up my example and then I'll say what I'm seeing is that, in the long run, so we got the Spider-Man trilogy in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, if you look at the whole thing at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, he actually becomes our Peter Parker, our Spider-Man type of thing, like where he is fully embracing he has a secret identity. He's living on his own. He's in an apartment by himself. All of the other incarnations of Spider-Man, that kind of happens in the first movie. But basically, the MCU did the slow route, and they did a trilogy to basically bring us up to, now he is actually embraced being Spider-Man. This series did the exact same thing in the entire first season. So the video games are about, where it's a battle royale with cars. It's a tournament where you're fighting with cars. The entire first season is basically a prequel to the tournament. Like to what the video game actually is. And to find that out at the very end is perfect. Like there's no mention of it throughout the series. It's never existed before. It's not like this legend or anything like that. And you're basically, you're going into it and then you get that as the tease at the end. Oh, fuck yeah. I'm excited for it. Like I want a season 2. Like that's incredible. That's an incredible way to kind of test the waters with the characters and kind of get you interested in each character and each group and each, what's going to be like, the people interacting in the tournament and stuff, and having them interact in the real world before it also. So you're going to have like, acquaintances having to fight in this, like against each other and stuff like that. They're setting up so much like tension for what the actual video game it's based off is. That's why both of us were hoping that we get more seasons of this, because I want to see this payoff. Because this payoff, there's so many different storylines that are going to be paid off in another season, in multiple seasons, hopefully. But it's just I just loved that. I loved finding that out at the end because like they could have given us like a goofy twist, like they did. They gave us the one with Sweet Tooth and Stu. That was a
Yeah.
goofy twist, but to give us the twist of oh yeah, like you thought we weren't gonna do like the actual what the video game is actually is, but nope, that's the tease. That's the tease. This entire season was the setup to introduce you to all of the characters that are going to be in the next thing that's going to basically be based what the video game is based off type of thing.
Right.
And I enjoyed that so much. Like I was like instantly when I saw that I was like we have to get a second season. Give us something more to this. I need to see more. And to be able to do that, I think is they've done their job. They did their job. I'm ready for a second season already. And we haven't even gotten any news on if it's been renewed or not, but I'm really hoping that we get more from this payoff. I think it was very good. It was done very well. And I just loved finding that out at the end. I think that was one of the greatest things they could have put at the end was going, oh shit,
Right.
this was all just introducing the video game that's now going to be in the next season type of thing. But I could go on and on and on why I like that so much. But Rico, what predictions do you have for hopefully the next season, I guess?
Yeah. So we get that cool scene where Nev Campbell goes up to Jon and basically goes like, "We need you in this tournament," and she even drops the Twisted Metal, title line in there, which is really fun. The delivery wasn't the best, but it's kind of like that Peter Griffin, like he said it. It's always one of those moments for me. But they do this thing where they kind of showed like the brackets and all the people that are going to be in it, kind of leading up. We see Jason Mantzoukas' character from The Holy Man, which I thought, first of all, I love seeing him in the show because I'm a big fan of Rafi from my favorite characters of all time. And he's kind of the character that kind of threw that like Last Man on Earth comparison because those are the kind of actors that would be in those kind of shows to me. We see the woman who's kind of like the successor to Granny Dread. I forget her name, unfortunately, but she drives like the tiny car. She's in the final bout at the end.
Right.
But she's on there,
Twister.
and then we see there we go. And then we get Mary, but we already see her get killed early on in the season. So that leads me to believe that slot's going to be taken up by somebody, whether it's Quiet or whether it's Sweet Tooth. I have to imagine it's Sweet Tooth because you can't have a Twisted Metal tournament without Sweet Tooth now.
Right.
And so I'm very, very excited to see like the build up of that tournament and see if they're gonna like if the whole season's just gonna be like kind of one-on-ones or if it's gonna be all these things like cars together. So that's gonna be very fun to see how they're gonna approach that. Another thing is the kind of the storylines they set up for the seasons 2. So we have Jon's sister who's kind of been introduced at the end, and she's got some pretty cool kind of a look there with the like kind of like Japanese puppet mask kind of a look. So very excited to see more of Jon's story get told because we basically get him learning like his past at the very end, and he's kind of like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
So it's like that's just basically like an unopened material that you have going into the second season right there. So you can just let that all unfold. Yeah, and that's gonna be very, very fun to watch. I think I'm very excited.
Yeah, same. And just as you were kind of talking about that, what would be a really cool kind of almost like subplot for the actual tournament itself is like more on the line of like I'm almost looking at it as like a Twisted Metal Hunger Games where they're getting forced into the tournament, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And what if they end up having to work together? Now, obviously, Sweet Tooth's going to take out some people, but I'm guessing not main characters type of thing.
Yeah.
So what if by, at some point, Sweet Tooth, Stu, Quiet, John Doe, like have to, they end up banding together and then they go against Nev Campbell's character and whoever else is running the tournament. Calypso, I think. Is another
Calypso.
Person. And so like then it turns into like the outsiders versus the insiders type of thing. And I can see that exploding for like, like that being like halfway through the season and that being the rest of the season is kind of like all hell breaking loose type of thing. And the outsiders versus the insiders type of thing would be a really cool kind of way to pull it out of the actual tournament. So
yeah. Man, Sweet Tooth to me is like the juggernaut, dude. Like it just seems like wherever he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, and you cannot stop him. And it's gonna be really fun. I
It
think
was
like the best Easter egg, of course, of the show had to have been when he just goes, pour that gas on my head and light it on fire, and then just like, what the heck? That's the he's doing the thing, and he's just like, yes, I love this.
not only that, but classic horror movie style end like jump cut at the end.
Oh
Where
yeah.
he goes, "Hi, Stu," and he like, pops up at the end.
Yeah, very much looking forward to the adventures of the DS brothers, as they call themselves.
Yes, yes, brothers, yes. So excited, cannot wait. If you've watched it, first off, thank you for watching our recaps. If you did watch our recaps and you haven't watched season 1 of Twisted Metal, 100% recommend.
Hopefully
Really hope that you'll check it out.
Intrigues you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't spoil a lot. I mean, episode to episode, it's very hard to talk about 10 episodes in one recap video. But like, if you enjoy the humor from the trailer and some of the clips and stuff like that, it's definitely worth watching. It is a pleasant surprise, as both of us have said in this. And yeah, we really hope that there's going to be more seasons. Like, I would really like to see multiple seasons to this, because I think they have a lot of storylines that they could go, just like you were saying. I think, the sky's the limit of where they could go. Obviously, it's pointing towards like a tournament as the next season. But like I said, we could have that leading up to like the middle, and then the other half could be, the outsiders versus the insiders type of thing. And then it could, all hell could break loose type of thing. So
yeah,
really interested to see where they go next, and really hoping we get a confirmation for more seasons. But as always, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of season 1 of Twisted Metal, and who's your favorite driver? I mean, there's no wrong answer here. You could love Stu and Sweet Tooth. We're not saying that you have to love John Doe and Quiet, but there's so many different drivers out there. And you know what? Another thing I'd really like to know in the comments is, did you play the Twisted Metal video games? Because I'm coming from a place that I didn't play the video games ahead of time. Obviously, I knew about them, and Rico and I have talked about them a lot, but I'm not coming from that. So I'm really interested to hear what your opinions are on the series coming from playing the video games. Obviously, they've been out for years and years and years, but very interested to hear that. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.